To face the nation, with us now is former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you about something former Speaker Newt Gingrich said, which is that he said white Americans can't understand the extra risk that comes with being black in America, and that whites instinctively underestimate the danger of the black experience. What do you think about that?
I agree with that completely. I agree largely with the sentiments of Congressman Elijah Cummings. The reality is we have to look differently at race in America if we're going to change this. We've been looking at it the same way for 20 years, and here's where we are. And we both have to try to understand each other. First, let me say my deep sympathy for the people of Minnesota, people of Louisiana, people of Texas and of Dallas. And I'd like them all to remember that although these incidents happen in different ways, they all share it together as Americans. We share this violence together as Americans. So maybe whites have to look at it differently and blacks have to look at it differently. Whites have to realize that African-American men have a fear, and boys have a fear of being confronted by the police because of some of these incidents. Some people may consider it rational, some people may consider it irrational, but it's a reality. It exists. And there's a second reality in the black community. The second reality in the black community is there's too much violence in the black community. So a black will die 1% or less at the hands of the police and 99% at the hands of a civilian, most often another black. So if you want to protect black lives, then you got to protect black lives not just against police, which happens rarely, although with tremendous attention, and which happens every 14 hours in Chicago. Every 14 hours, and we never hear from Black Lives Matter. Well, so if you want to deal with this on the black side, you've got to teach your children to be respectful to the police, and you've got to teach your children that the real danger to them is not the police. The real danger to them, 99 out of 100 times, 9,900 out of 1,000 times, are other black kids who are going to kill them. That's the way they're going to die.
So, Mr. Mayor,
now, on the white side, we have to understand that whether we get it or not, there is this extraordinary fear of the police, and the police have to institute a policy of zero tolerance, like we did for crime in New York. Zero tolerance, no disrespect. Way back 14 years ago, Commissioner Howard Safir began a program in New York City called Courtesy, Professionalism, and Respect. It was continued by the next 3 police commissioners, including the one you just had on now.
Mr. Mayor, let me just ask you, you started off by saying that white Americans have to understand that this is happening in the black community, and then at the end you said members of the black community have to teach their children to behave in front of the police. That those messages seem to conflict with one another.
Of course they don't. If I were a black father and I was concerned about the safety of my child, really concerned about it, and not in a politically activist sense, I would say be very respectful to police. Most of them are good. Some can be very bad, and just be very careful.
And so what do police...
I'd also say be very careful of those kids in the neighborhood and don't get involved with them, because, son, there's a 99% chance they're going to kill you, not the police. And we got to hear that from the black community. And what we got to hear from the black community is how and what they are doing among themselves about the crime problem in the black community. When there are 60 shootings in Chicago over the 4th of July and 14 murders, and Black Lives Matter is non-existent, and then there's one police murder of very questionable circumstances, and we hear from Black Lives Matter, we wonder, do Black Lives matter, or only the very few black lives that are killed by white policemen, but not all those black lives that are killed by other blacks? And on the black side, what they hear from us is constantly defending the police. Now, I'll give you an example. I had a police officer who brutally attacked a gentleman named Amadou Diallo. That police officer is now sitting in jail for 25 years due to the work of my police commissioner, Howard Safir, and the prosecution of now Attorney General Loretta Lynch. I also had police officers who were wrongly accused and acquitted by a jury, even though mobs were calling for them to be put in jail despite the fact that a jury found them not guilty. So these are complicated situations, and we have to try to understand each other.
Right. Just a final question, sir. You said that the Black Lives Matter movement has put a target on the back of police officers. When members of the African American community see videos as they have this week, they feel like there is a target on young black men. Explain your response about how they put a target on police officers, how that can match up when people see these videos.
Well, when they talk about killing police officers.
But they don't.
When they sing, well, they sure do. They sing rap songs about killing police officers, and they talk about killing police officers, and they yell it out at their rallies, and the police officers
Mr.
hear
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, what
and
you
the
seem to be doing is taking...
please let me finish. And when you say Black Lives Matter, that's inherently racist.
Well, I think their
Black
argument
lives matter, white lives matter, Asian lives matter, Hispanic lives matter. That's anti-American, and it's racist.
Well,
of course Black lives matter, and they matter greatly. But when you focus in on 1% of less than 1% of the murder that's going on in America, and you make it a national thing, and all of you in the media make it much bigger than the black kid who's getting killed in Chicago every 14 hours, you create a disproportion. The police understand it, and it puts a target on their back. Every cop in America will tell you that if you ask them.
All right, Mayor Giuliani, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.